is up? I'm Rick, the Fat Man GM. You may or may have not have heard of me babbling and rambling on a few of the YouTube channels and Facebook channels regarding to our hobby, role-playing games in general, tabletop games, wargaming, so on and so forth. I have started back when I was in my early teens. I have well over 40 years worth of experience in this hobby that we love and share. And a big part of what I like to do is go back and revisit a lot of the stuff that I have and have accumulated in my gaming career, if you will. And everything from MERP, Starfleet, from FASA, a slew of Dungeons and Dragons and Shadowrun, Star Wars, etc., etc., etc. And I revisit these items individually, and hopefully to give some nostalgia for myself, to give you a little bit of an insight into some game system that you may or may not have heard of or may have not had the opportunity to play, and to remind those of us out there that do have them that these are quite viable and still entertaining today. So here we go. And here we are. This is Trolls of the Misty Mountains, part of the MERP, Middle Earth role-playing game system. This was one of the earlier releases into the game system, if I remember, from Iron Crown Enterprises, roughly 1986, the year after I graduated high school. It's definitely worth 30 years old. Like I said, I say it over and over again, I'm a fan of MERP and Iron Crown Enterprises, who also put out Rolemaster. And one of the things that they thoughtfully considered is the conversion charts and the basic instructions on how to basically allow you to use any game system mechanics to play MERP. So, like I said, a lot of my newer players back in the day struggled with Rolemaster. They were familiar with Dungeons and Dragons and its various incarnations, and I just simply used D&D rulebooks, the GM guide, the monster manual to some degree, and the player handbook in order for them to just enjoy the setting and not worry and struggle with learning yet a new convoluted system as far as they were concerned. So, Trolls of the Misty Mountains, it's the year 1640, the Third Age, Middle Earth, and the Kingdom of Rhudaur, like other lands, is still reeling from the depredations of the plague, roughly 1636. Arthedain finds herself weak from the loss of military manpower. Cardolan is virtually extinct as an entity, and Rhudaur is an Angmarian subject state. Only in the angle along the Coldfells in the southern and southeastern Rhudaur do the Edain settlements remain, struggling to hold out against Hillmen and Dunlendings. All the armies of Middle Earth, including the forces of the Witch-King of Angmar, find themselves short of recruits. Acting on the general law and martial activity, the governor of the eastern borderlands, I.C.E, is attempting to boost the border defenses in this last frontier of Rhudaur. Hampered by a scarcity of funds, Governor I.C.E plans to strengthen existing defensive works in a region other than building new fortifications. So we have these two small towns, or villages, Denos and Elnos, surrounding, I'm going to rephrase that, two small border keeps with small villages nearby, Denos and Elnos. Border keeps the Arthedain kingdom, the realm having reclaimed what land it could when the kingdom of Rhudaur fell, although are physically cut off from the home country except for via the Brunnen to the south river. They are strongly built with granite block walls 10 feet thick and over 50 feet high. Each force manned by 30 to 40 regular soldiers, of whom 20 to 25 will be in the keep at any given time, the rest out on patrol. Both keeps are provisioned and able to withstand sieges of over 2 months. They set about 35 miles apart. The whole straddles the Ornell Valley, lying to the southeastern ends of two chains of hills that define the valley. The problem is, although Denos and Elnos are separated by a mere 20 miles, can signal each other in event of attack, the keeps are separated by the rugged terrain of the East Wood. No reliable roads or paths connect the fortress, so it requires more than a day of hard travel to span the distance. Both keeps have good roads leading to larger fortresses, the regional command center, but help from this quarter takes even longer to arrive. As Sounder is engaging a reliable party dwarves to construct a wide path through the wood that would connect the towns of Cardolan and Despair, located near the point where the east wood is narrowest in a north-south direction, taking advantage of the existing paths and animal runs whenever possible. The crew will cut a 10-foot swath through the trees and break up any available rock to provide a kind of gravel base for the road. The tasks for the first two adventures will revolve around proposed path through the woods. Prior to the work crew setting out, a small scouting party will be sent out from the town of Despair to the south end of the east wood, north through the woods to scout out the area. The East Wood is known to have become seriously infested with trolls and orcs, especially since the rise of the Witch-King. The party will be equipped with a map to propose route, etc., etc. The East Wood stops the East Wood, Cardolan and Despair. Of course, of the three adventures, the players may use these two towns to acquire information and physical items that might enhance their adventuring. Certainly, the party should make use of Cardolan, where the key information leading to the third adventure site will be found. So we got Cardolan itself, located north of the East Wood in areas more lightly populated and somewhat more dangerous. Despair is located, Dispar, if that's how you want to call it. It's located on the Cardolan River in an active farming area as large as the Cardolan due to the greater opportunity for trade which exists in this setting. Dispar makes no serious attempt at fortification. The earth bank walls of the town are able to delay, not deter potential attackers. So here's one map of the larger town of Dispar. Venture at Dolden Hill. The dwarves at Dolden Hill. In 40 years, this small party of dwarves, 8 in all, has led by the venerable Dilladun, after whom they named the hill, prosper in their new location, mining and working copper and iron, various items of worked metal they were able to trade for food and coin from nearby farmers. In addition, they fished and hunted small game. When the dwarves first arrived in the area, they had been a small horde of orcs in the hills a little to the north. They immediately drove the orcs away. No other dangerous creatures had been seen since. Because of this, they became lax in their security measures. They began to walk around the woods unarmed, stopped covering up their trails, and eventually no longer posted a lookout at the top of the hill. And the coming of the trolls. The NPCs, Gwillem and Floyd. Gwillem and Floyd are forest trolls bred from common stock. Their exact relation to each other is no longer clear. The trolls think of family tree as a reference to their incredibly dim-witted kinstrel Hugo, rather than as a record of lineage. For some 200 years, these two were inseparable. The mage Rhudaur had joined them at the top of the hill as punishment for eating his assistant. So they were literally inseparable. Through this sour outlook on life somewhat, it forged a permanent partnership. They have wreaked havoc on countryside ever since. So, Gwillem is about 10 feet and a half tall, a little smarter than the average troll, but not quite so strong. Floyd is a few inches taller, stronger than Ox, but he doesn't brag about any other comparisons to that animal. Neither is a pretty sight in a good light, and thick, heavy limbs, uneven splotches of hair all over low foreheads, and menacing teeth that all contribute to a dismal picture. Homely is too tame a description. In addition, their manners are quite bad. Their breath is foul, and they have yet to take a bath. On the other hand, they're not snobs. They'll have anyone for dinner. Right. Got 2 wolves for pets, apparently. Racine Gainier is a short Dunlending descent with reddish-brown hair and green eyes. Cunning, wicked thief, in effect, in a very charming manner. The coming of the trolls. Apparently, there's a picture of one of the trolls. Come on, how many times you have found yourself in this situation, right? Jord is a tall Northman served Scanier. In the younger days served Prince Anna, last room that disposed the line of princes of Cardolan. Ranks to his personal guard, being a hot temper, which repeatedly caused him trouble. Finally, argument with the prince himself caused him to be dismissed. He wandered around for a while as a warrior for hire, and never found a permanent home again. So we got a couple would-be bandits. Warrior Arthedain, lay out dude in the hill. Moderate size hill. Exteriors. Fire at night or warm coal in the day. The night fire will be burning here in preparation for cooking the troll meal. Early in the night, the chances of finding a troll attaining the fire are slim. Later in the early hours of the morning, chances become better. Daylight, the coals will still be warm, indicating recent use. Then the ashes are nearby, maybe some charred bones, but nothing of significance. Paths, ashes from old fires, other things you might find. Interior of the dwarf quarters. Of course, the dwarves are no longer present. Here is the troll hole, lookout dome. So here's a map of the town, of the hill, the troll hole, the treasure room, tunnel network. Basic layout of a small dungeon crawl. Dwarf quarters, obstacles, rewards, the task. The main objective is to clear the local woods of trolls for the sake of both the pathway and the local farmers. All the while, the adventurers should be on the lookout for money and treasure accumulated overlooked by the trolls. Players, including pre-generated player characters, should start at Archnell Farmhouse. Archer Arshell has provided directions to the adventurers to take northwest into the woods. Between the 2 and 3 miles away stands the hill where the dwarven buildings are. These dwarves will be visible in the daytime from about a mile away, if one is fairly unobstructed view. At night, a fire will be burning at the base of the hill, and will be noticed for over a mile away from some places. Encounter the wolves, the trolls, the bandits. Village adventure number 2, the adventure at the village of Garkrash. Orc village of Garkrash, it lies in a small gully vessel nestled between a large hill to the north and 2 small hillocks to the south. NPCs, the Serdok Sharduka, the chief of the orc tribe, large and heavily muscled. Molkar is a pharaoh, a pariah orc, one of the tribalist orcs who camp in the village common outside the caverns. Unknown to the rest of the orcs, Molkar is the chief assassin among the orcs who serve the Witch-King at Cardolan, so he's a spy. Mark Rash, Gorbalagons, a couple other orcs. Layout of the village itself. Pretty typical, you know, the adventure here. You're here to clear out the orcs, knock them down, gut them, string them up, whatever. Adventure should most closely follow the conditions set in the introduction. The orc village is directly in line with a proposed path. Players should either clear out the village and the temple, or bring evidence of the size and strength to the village of Rhudaur. These are the only options that the party can entertain and still fulfill the terms of their agreement. Either wipe them out or bring proof back to the town that there's a hold of orcs down here that need wiped out. Obstacles, aid, starting the players, the rewards. This is the last venture for the party before the party can collect its 20 gold piece reward. The party must decide at this point they tend to go onward towards Cardolan. In addition, the group will rescue the Northman Ranger Theron, and they will hear the following tale, which is a prelude to adventure number 3, and then encounters the orcs. Adventure at Mossfoe. Deep within the east wood between Solden's Cross, adventure number 3. Solden's Cross to the south and overgrown ruins of Tyrande to the north. Wooded hills rise high and steep. It's rumored that one of the early princes of Rhudaur was buried here, and his tomb's here, and there's some valuable stuff. Meanwhile, you've got two nut jobs who work for Angmar, the Witch-King of Angmar, and they're searching for this tomb, and eventually, and then there's they've captured 2 others who would come looking for the tomb that were distantly related to the person there, and laid claim. So we got lays and around, you know, traditional little additional encounters. I get beast chart master encounters, female trolls, map of the area. Nice little adventure book. I'm just saying, these things are timeless, and they, just like any traditional module that I can think of, they are excellent for adding flavor and either filling a simple one-off afternoon with some friends or as part of a larger campaign. One of the reasons that I've always liked, I really like MERP, and when I was buying, I got into a stage when I was buying Dungeons and Dragons stuff. I focused mostly on the source books and the larger books. I saw a lot of the modules, and I bought a few of the early stuff, which sadly I gave away to my older son. I don't have anymore. The material was okay. It was good stuff and entertained me. It served its role. But for me at the time, I was spending more and more time using the heavier books, the more convoluted rules, the thick, crunchy stuff that a lot of people don't like these days, to create my own adventures. I didn't see the need or the value of spending my slim earnings on that kind of material, and so I didn't. On the other hand, with the MERP game system, even the smallest module, for the lion's part, fills a niche in a larger world, and whether you ever go there and adventure there or not, the fact is that you, as the GM, have more additional knowledge of the Middle Earth as we know from the books and the movies and the wider realm around it. So whenever I looked at Tolkien's map of Middle Earth, and I can go, oh, well, I got a module for this particular area, oh, I got a source book for this larger area, and oh, there's modules for, so they all actually are big or small pieces of a large puzzle, and that way it was my incentive to buy as much of the stuff as I could get until I got to the point where my true interest shifted to something else, and they were coming out with, I don't know, second or third generation stuff from MERP, and it wasn't doing so hot, or it would change owners. I don't remember what went down, and we had a slightly different version of MERP, and I'd have to dig in my head for what it was, and I know what it is, I just can't put my fingers on it at the moment. It's been a long, stressful, and eventful couple weeks for me. I'm just saying. Till the next one.